Okay. Well, hi, Ben. Thanks for taking time out of your morning to sit down with me. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Really good, thanks.
Good.
So you work in the special events technology department at the University of Notre Dame, and it's football season there, and I know you're a big Irish football fan. What's the atmosphere like on campus right now?
The atmosphere is pretty electric, as always during fall. The fans seem to always come in for Notre Dame home games. Obviously, just had the loss to Georgia, so we'll see how that plays out this weekend. But we're expecting a big crowd for Virginia, so we're happy.
Good, good. Well, thanks for taking your time today, and I really appreciate you taking your time over the last couple of years to talk with me and work with me and help me write your story, write a little bit about your story at least, and just what's mattered most to you growing up on the autism spectrum. So, what made you interested in participating in this project in the first place?
Well, when you first reached out to me and asked me my opinions and asked me to get involved, I was highly interested in the beginning because I like helping people out. That's a big thing for me personally. I just like helping anybody that needs any advice or any coaching. I'm always doing that with my employees who I work with. When you reached out to me for this book, I said, yes, because for me, it's just a great opportunity not only to share my story, but also to help other people that might have some trouble with their own children.
Yeah, that's great, and I appreciate your time because I've been trying to access autistic expertise, and I feel like you have a lot to say and important things to say that parents and doctors and therapists and other caregivers just can't. So thank you.
What really I liked about being involved is I had the opportunity to reach a much bigger audience than me personally could ever, reach by myself.
Neat, neat. That's great. Uh, in your part of the book, specifically, you talked a lot about your school experience. So, what were some of the problems you encountered in school, and what did people do that you found helpful? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, some of the big problems that I have, obviously, in the book, I address. I got bullied a lot when I was in school, so that was obviously a big issue. Um, the other issue is just all of the classrooms that weren't exactly organized, as well as some others presented some issues just because it seemed like the teacher really didn't have a full handle on the classroom and kind of created chaos for me because being autistic, I really didn't know what was going on in that specific time or place. So those were a little bit of the complications and issues just because the bullying took away from me being able to learn and just the chaos is something that I just wasn't prepared for and really caught me off guard. But some of the things that some teachers did to really help was I would offer up advice or suggestions, or I would talk to the teacher personally, and that's what I kind of liked. Is most of the teachers, I mean, they're just people like you and me. They like to talk to kids. They like to associate and get advice that how they can better access their classroom. And I was able to offer up some of the suggestions and advice about what could be done, and that way the teacher could uh, take those advice and suggestions and put them into a format where it was a lesson plan, and they made a point of addressing some of my concerns for the classroom. So that really helped.
Oh, that's great. So that probably helped you and probably a lot of other people to follow you.
I hope.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Wow, that's great. So, part of this book discusses the problem with functioning labels. A lot of the contributors spoke about that, categorizing autistic people as either high functioning or low functioning. A lot of people mentioned this as a problem, citing a variety of different issues that they had with this classification, but I thought you gave me a really powerful response to this issue and articulated it in what I thought was a really unique perspective. So, I have your quote here and I'm going to read it. You said, when a doctor or another person refers to me as being on the high functioning end of the spectrum, that doesn't really make sense to me. Does that mean that I'm almost normal? What pops into my head is, there's Ben, he's that dot right there, like they're graphing the whole thing. I don't really understand what they're basing their decision on. What is normal? Do people think it's a compliment to be considered high functioning, to be considered almost normal? How have you handled this kind of categorization or labeling throughout your life? I'm sure you've heard it a lot. How have you dealt with that?
I don't really think too much or dwell on that categorization too often. It was something that I have to deal with. It's something that I have to live with. It's who I am, but I don't try to change it, or I don't try to fight it in saying, "Oh, I'm not normal." But and some people might say, "Oh, here's you, and here's the spectrum, and here's how it plays out," and it's just not how I'm going to choose to live my life. I'm going to be who I am, and if people don't like it, then they don't like it. So
and not necessarily focus on where you're at or
right,
what. Yeah.
right.
So does it bother you if other people refer to you as high functioning, or say, "Oh, you have autism, you must be high functioning," or something like that? Does that bother you?
Yeah, it bothers me a little bit because they're still putting a huge weight on the spectrum and where I'm at and where they think I am on the spectrum and their thoughts on it. And it always kind of throws me off when anybody brings it up, just because obviously they've done some research or they have associated themselves with other autistic children that are, not as high functioning as I am, or, as put together as I am. But I just kind of take that as, I take that and I don't really expand beyond it. I just cordially kind of end the conversation, because those are kind of people, those people that say those things have misconstrued ideas to begin with, and I just don't want to, I don't want to try and change their method of thinking, but as well, I don't want to try to help, I don't try to promote what they're trying to do or talk
Yeah,
about.
yeah. It's obvious that they have some some misconceptions or some preconceived notions about autism that you don't agree with, but sometimes it's difficult to give everybody the lecture that they need to have
Yeah.
in all situations.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate your time. So as we close, can you tell me just what your hopes are for the audience of this book?
I really hope the audiences of this book just really take the information to heart. There's a lot of great information in there from a lot of different people that are autistic, that we, including myself, we live this daily life. We know how people react to it. We see it every day when we involve ourselves with other people. Whenever we go out to dinner, whenever we do something with our families, every aspect of our life, this is there. This is who we are. So I do hope that people kind of listen and, like I said, take the information to heart, because if they really pay attention and if they really take the advice that we give in the book, they can help their child have a more structured and a more successful school and upbringing, and it'll just make everything a lot smoother when they transform themselves into young adults to adults, and being able to look back at their life and saying, wow, my parents really listened to the advice of these people and they really took that to heart, and I'm grateful that they listened to these people, because these are the things that helped me along the way.
Yeah, and what better perspective to follow on the autistic experience than that of someone on the spectrum.
Right.
Yeah, great. Okay, well, thanks a lot for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.